Good afternoon, everybody. Today we are going to have neck bones for supper with rice and black-eyed peas. Um, my husband's grandmother taught me how to do this. She fixed neck bones for me when I was pregnant, and I absolutely loved them. I'm not sure how many white people actually eat neck bones, but they need to. Like, really, they need to. Nice. It's a nice tender piece of meat. And by the sound, you probably would not know it. But yes, it is a wonderful piece of meat. So I'm going to pull out my pot for my stuff. So neck bones. We're going to do rice and that. And it's too small for the other. I could probably use this for my black-eyed peas. Okay. I'm going to start with my black-eyed peas. I'm just going to open the bag up. And we're going to boil these. Let's see. There you go. You can somewhat see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to come over here and get my water for my beans going. Now remember, I told you if you want things to boil quickly, use hot water instead of cold water. Reason why is because the hot water takes a lot less time if you're trying to get things done quickly. And I've kind of waited while I gagged around a little bit, and I waited a little too late to really take a lot of time. So it's about almost 6 o'clock. It's 5:45 right now, which means I've got to get the ball on the show on the road when it comes to dinner. So I'm going to go ahead and get this going. I'm going to just cut it on medium because they're kind of soft. Another thing is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix my black-eyed peas and my rice. I'm going to get my rice going as well because everybody knows rice takes forever to get done. And I'm just going to use brown rice today. So 1 cup. Rice really expands, so I'm just, like I said, I don't have proper measurements past my scoops. So I'm just eyeballing. It's really up to you how much you cook. And like I said, everybody's different. So I'm just kind of eyeballing this. How much do I want to fix for my family? I can go ahead and get this put up. Now, one thing you always want is to season your stuff. So as soon as I get my rice going, I will season both of these. Okay.
Have a seat.
What you doing, honey? Okay. So I'm just going to use something simple. Just ordinary salt. Get that good and seasoned. This needs to be cut on about right there. Now let's cut that up. I've got to get these done. And season that good. And because I don't have anything, I don't have any butter, and I would usually use butter in my rice, but because I don't have any yet, I'm going to use my shortening. I had to use my shortening for a number of things. I'm just going to get this a little spoon, get me a good dollop of that, and get that in here, so that way I ain't going to have anything stick. Get my thing stirred. That probably won't take so long to get done. What's going to take the longest is my rice, and I should have already had them going. So I apologize to everyone for that one. Okay. Now, like I said, my husband's grandmother taught me how to do this, but when I asked her what kind of seasoning she uses, she said that, funniest thing, she said, you're never going to be able to mimic it. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to tell you what you do. Use bullet and salt and pepper. So, yes, I do boil my stuff and my neck bones in salt and pepper. But I add a few other things to it. And the reason why she wouldn't give me her complete recipe is not because she didn't think I would ever be able to do it. It's because at the time when she told me how to do it, I was still very young in the cooking thing. I was still learning a lot very quickly. And I wasn't ready to mimic a lot of things. Still not ready to mimic a lot of things, but I've got a good foothold. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this. These are neck bones. They got a good bit of meat on them. You'd be surprised for the name of them being a neck bone, how much meat is actually on these things. Now, if you get neck bones, they're like various pieces. Like some are big, some are little. And they come in this big old package. Okay. I am going to wind up with a good bit of neck bone. Okay. And I've had these thawing out all day because it's been around 60 something degrees. So the high was supposed to be in the 70s. So it was good weather just to kind of really let things do their own thing. Okay, that dried. Come over here, and I'm going to go ahead and start boiling these. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and, like she taught me, use the salt and pepper. But I'm also going to use my Creole seasoning too. And I'll take my wooden spoon here and keep my rice going. And I hope this doesn't take the umpteenth of forever to get done. Like I really do. Put that on high, and I'm going to have to watch that very closely. And go ahead and season my neck bone. And I'm going to cut this down on medium high because I want to make sure they're done, but I don't want them to get done before my rice. Okay, that's a good bit of enough salt. And come over here and get some pepper. That's enough. And I'm gonna do this. This is that Creole seasoning. It'll be nice to the meat and give it a good bit of flavoring. Now, I've been adding a little cayenne pepper to a lot of things. We don't do a lot of heat in my family, but if you do it like a pinch here, it just kind of gives everything a mild little kick. And like you really do not want to go overboard with this. Like that right there is like a very lightly sprinkling, and that's more than enough. Trust me when I say that is more than enough. It's okay, so we're gonna make sure all this gets stirred around so everything's got something. Okay. Okay, so my rice is already boiling really good, which is really, really good. Because I did waste a lot of time. I'm trying to make sure it gets done good, but quickly too. Okay. Now, here's another thing. Black eyed peas usually it's a very bland bean. So, and I just put salt in it. I think I'm going to give it use that Creole seasoning in it as well, along with the cayenne pepper. Because I want to make sure it has enough seasoning too, because I wind up using ketchup on my black eyed peas. Just because it's bland. And I got some tomato sauce up here, so when time comes to mix both rice and black-eyed pea, I will actually add that tomato sauce to it. And that should be enough. Like I said, you don't want to go with that because that can go overboard very quickly. Okay. Now, while I usually stand in here and wait for everything to get done, But while I'm standing here, I usually read. So I find me a good book to read. So I think today I'm going to pull out my Bible. Just to be honest with everybody, if it wasn't for me doing a YouTube channel, I'd be pulling out my Twilight book. I've got the whole series, and yes, I read them multiple times. I mean, if you got it, might as well. And it goes into greater detail in the movie, so it's yeah, everything's starting to bull good. So let's find us something to read. Okay. I told y'all once before that I got my son's name out of the Bible, and I got it out of the book of Ruth. So I think I'm going to start at the first chapter and we read the book of Ruth. Now, here's one thing y'all will have to bear with me because reading out loud is just not my favorite cup of tea. And this is on page 175. Well, did you realize it was very small? Okay, we'll start this again. Because I do have it on high. Okay, the first in chapter one, the title, it's got like three different titles too. It's cut in three portions, and the first portion is called Naomi Widowed. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a sorry, I told you I have a hard time reading out loud. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man from Bethlehem in Judea went to sojourn in the country of Moab. He had his wife and his two sons. The name of the man was Elimelech. The name of the wife was Naomi. And the name of his two sons was the name his two sons were Melon and Chilon, I think, and I'm not really sure how to pronounce them. They were Ephraimites from Bethlehem in Judea, and they went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her two sons. They took Moabite wives. The one of them, the name of one was Orpah, the name of the other was Ruth. They they lived there about 10 years, and both Melon and both boys died, so that the woman woman was left without her two sons and her husband. I'm gonna start this again. I'm gonna start to puff up. And I'm gonna poke this down a little bit. I'm not really able to do much to this yet. Okay, the second part is starting with verse 6, and it's called Ruth's loyalty to Naomi. When she arose with her daughters-in-law to return to the country to return from the country of Moab, she had from she had heard in the fields of Moab that the Lord had visited his people and had given them food. So she set out from the place where she was with her two daughters-in-law, and they went on their way to return to the land of Judea. But Naomi said to her daughters-in-law, "Go, return to your own mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. And the Lord grant you the Lord grant that you may find rest, that you may find rest each of you in the house of her husband." Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? I have yet I have yet in my womb that have have I yet sons in my womb that they may become your husbands. Turn back, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, when I'm even if I should have a husband this night, should and should bear sons, would you therefore wait until they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, go, for it is exceedingly bitter for me for me your sakes that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me." Then they lifted up their voices and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. I'm going to wipe, as soon as this gets to a certain point, I'm going to have to take some of the water out of this one. And I'll have to show you how to do that. And that's a very tricky thing to do. And I'm going to have to add water to this one. So let me get my cup, add me a little water to it. Okay. I'm going to add about 2 cups to it because it did get out of water very quickly. And I ain't looking for it to get out of water too quickly. Now, if you're trying to get water, dip water out of one pot, I'll go ahead and show you how to do this. Just tilt your cup in here very carefully. And I'm just going to put a little of because that's got seasoning in it. And that'll give that rice a little extra seasoning. And see, I'm not able to get a whole lot out of it. Okay. And I will stir this again because I did add some to it. And I just added some of that, whatever it is that's foaming up off this meat. I guess that's fat or something. Oh, yeah, so my rice is starting to look a little good. And it's puffing up, too. My beans were already, they looked like they were already parboiled or something. So everything's going good. Okay, so I stopped at verse 14. I'm going to verse 15. And the last thing I said was Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, see, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, do not urge me to leave you or return from following you. For where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do so with me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you. And when Naomi heard that she was determined to go with her, she said no more. Okay. So Orpah decided to leave, which is why not many people paid much attention to her, because she did actually go back. But Ruth, however, decided she was going to stay with her. And I think she made one of the greatest statements in the world. She practically disowned her own people. And back in that time, that was probably a major thing to do. And I'm not really a big Bible nut. I don't know a lot of things. Okay, so the next part starts at verse 19, and it says, Naomi and Ruth return. So the two of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. And when they came back to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirring because of them. And the women said, "Is this Naomi?" She said she said to them, "Do not call me Naomi. Call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt with very bitterly with me. I went away with full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has testified against me and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me?" So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of a barley harvest. Now that's kind of very important because Ruth meets somebody very important, and it happens to be somebody she's related to. Well, let's see how this meat's doing. It's starting to look good. It's starting to look really good. Okay, so let's go on to chapter 2. Ruth meets Boaz. Now Naomi had a relative of her husband's, a wealthy man of the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, let me go to the field and glean along the ears of grain after him, in whose sight I shall find favor." And she said to her, "Go, my daughter." And she set out and went to glean in the field after the reapers, and she happened to come to the part of the field that belonging to Boaz, who was of the clan of Elimelech. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem, and he said to the reapers, "The Lord be with you." And they answered, "The Lord bless you." Then Boaz said to the young men who was in charge of the reapers, "Who is the young woman? Whose whose young woman is this?" And the servant who was in charge of the reapers answered, "She is the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. She said, 'Please let me glean and gather along this sheaves after the reapers.' So she came, and she has continued from early morning until now, except for a short rest." So Ruth was very determined to help feed her family. I'm only doing dipping out of one and putting the other, not only for the flavoring, but because I don't want this pot overflowing, and I have come across that on numerous occasions, which is another reason why I chose to stay in here where I can hover over them. This is doing good too. I probably need to cut this up now. Let that get done too. Okay, so let's continue. We are on verse 8 of chapter 2. Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Now listen, my daughter. Do not go and glean from any field or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Let your eyes be on the field that they keep reaping, and go after them. I have not charged I have not charged the young men not I have not charged the young men not to touch you. I have not charged the young men not to touch you." And this is a question. "And when you are thirsty, go to the um, vessels and drink what the young men have drawn." Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner?" But Boaz answered her, "All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, and how you left your father and mother and your native land and came to a people that you did not know before. The Lord the Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." Then she said, "I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord, for you have comforted me and spoken kindly to your servant. Therefore I am not one, though I am not one of your servants." And give me a second, I will continue this after this one probably. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off. This is the one I have to cut off before I can change the temp, because this one I decided it wants to change the temperature for me. Even though I don't control it, even though I don't turn it. So I have to be very mean to this eye and make it do what I want it to do. I'm gonna have to let this cool down. I kind of think it's done, but I'm gonna let it cool down, let it keep boiling. I'm just gonna cut the tint down a little bit when it does. I'm gonna check the water on this one because it looks like it's getting a little low again, and it is. My rice is puffing up good. Let me taste it. About the only way I know to know if it's done or not is to taste it. Actually, that is done. So I'm going to cut that off. Go ahead and try these. These are done too. Now, what I just did tasting out of two pots with the same spoon is very um, unsanitary. It's not something you would normally do. But I'm just feeding my family. So I'm not kind of following the technical cooking rules. I'm not being formal or anything. Okay. I'm going to let that continue cooking for a little bit. I want to make sure they're good and done. Mm. And I'm just pouring out the water out of this one. I'm going to have to go and get that spoon for this. Get the spoon. Okay, that's enough. I can dip out the rest without any assistance. Do the same thing to this. I think that's going to be enough. I didn't pour out a good bit of it. I just poured out a little bit. But I did remember I needed some of that juice so I can to add to my tomato sauce here. So I'm going to go ahead and get that out. Yeah, it's just a little thing. It's only an 8-ounce can. Well, like I said, I just want a little bit of that tomato sauce just for the flavoring. And no, I don't want any of the juices out of this. And even though I poured some of that out, not a lot of it came out. Okay, since my dinner's just about done, I will go ahead and tell you what exactly happens next. Yes, Boaz was related to Naomi through marriage, but there was one ahead of him. Um, in those days, it was whoever was born first, and there was another man that was supposed to have first, in our words, first dibs. It's almost like Ruth being having Prince Harry finding Ruth, and Ruth kind of gleaming in his field, and Prince Harry telling her, "Well, don't go to any other field, stay with mine," and with Prince William being the first in line to marry her. Now, the only way for William, since I'm just going to use them as an example, since William didn't want the girl, according to them, you had to give up property. So the guy took off his shoe and gave it to Harry or Boaz. So giving him legal right to Ruth. So the second in line was able to marry what the first in line did not want. Um, and Boaz was right. God did actually bless her for her kindness because from her came the descendants of King David. From her children. Now her children had children. They had children. They had children, all the way up to King David. From King David, it went on until it was went on until Mary and Joseph, and from them, from now everybody knows Mary was blessed because she was a virgin, and an angel told Joseph, "Yes, she's pregnant, but take her as your wife anyway because the child she's carrying is of God, and that child was Jesus." So she was very blessed because from her came God. And that's only in the Jesus's human lineage. What most people don't know, and they don't really think to look it up, but Boaz means swift, which I thought was really neat. I'm not sure what Naomi means. Well, this is looking good. And it turned out to be enough rice, too. Okay, so I'm going to close this, put this up here, and I'm going to get up my camera. And if I have enough time next time, we will finish the book of Ruth. Or start another story from the Bible. You can learn a lot from the Bible if you just sit down and read it. Heck, you don't have to read a lot. And sometimes one of the hardest things to read, and I guess that's the reason why most people don't read the Bibles, because there are some of these books that are really hard to read, like Revelations. Books like that kind of scare the devil out of people. When it's really nothing but giving you basic common sense to live by on a regular basis. He's in there playing. Okay, just about time for me to plate today's supper. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off because I'm kind of comfortable. I'm comfortable with how done that is. I've let it cook for about an hour. And I can tell my family's getting tired of waiting for supper. I can hear my husband in there yawning. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit on low for a little bit, or about right there, because I want that to heat up a little. But for the most part, that is done. I just wanted to give a bit of a tomatoey taste to it. Let me taste it. No, that's perfect. That is like so perfect. The rice is nice and tender. The beans are tender. The tomatoes, it doesn't give a very bold flavor, but you can taste there's tomatoes in it. You don't really taste the cayenne pepper or the Creole, but it does give enough of the flavor, enough flavoring in your bean that your bean doesn't taste blah. And nobody likes a blah bean. So I am going to start plating my family's meal and let y'all get a good look at this. Okay. Let's start with this one over here. That's a good pick, good bet. But you never know how much meat's on these bones. Honey bun, would you like cake to go with your as dessert, hon? Okay, baby. I'm gonna give him 3 pieces because he works hard to take care of us, and that man really does work like a dog. Okay. Sorry if I pause like that. It's not because I'm doing much. I'm just listening very carefully. I keep hearing cars. And they keep stopping and going, stopping and going, stopping and going. Almost like the mailman. And I know that's silly because I actually did notice that the mail had run a little earlier than normal. Okay, so there's that one. And this one. And yes, this looks like a good bit, but remember, it's a neck bone. You never know. Now, normally I would have some turnip greens to go along with this, but because I do what I call rationing. I'm trying to make sure we ran into a bit of financial trouble, and so I'm trying to make sure everything lasts. So, no, we're not having turnip greens with this, but it would be good. Turnip greens would be a good addition to this. And heck, if you took turnip greens, cut you up some onions into onion slithers where you can actually tell it's an onion. I use purple onions. Get you some tomato, and yes, mushroom. Uh, you can actually uh, turn the turnip greens into a turnip green salad, which I think is really good idea. Anyway, to add a little extra flavoring or add a lot of greens to your meal is a good idea. Okay, so that's it for our meal. And there you have it, neck bone and black eyed peas and rice. Um, I hope y'all got something out of the the Bible book I was reading today. If that's something y'all like, I will hit me a comment, and we will do more of that if I have a little time to spare. Um, but y'all have a nice night. God bless.